back, baby.
Offense, you know what to do.
It's football time in Tennessee.
Huh?
Yes, you know.
Get this Tennessee.
What's up, everybody? Enthusiasm will be low today as we are about to break down the inexplicable, horrendous loss that Tennessee had against the Arkansas Razorbacks in Fayetteville last night. I really, that's the best intro I can come up with. Eli, we might as well just hop right into it. I mean, just a all systems failure is the best way that I can describe what happened to the Vols last night.
Tennessee played last night?
You know, that's a good point. They really didn't.
Dude, no, they did, and I watched it, and it wasn't fun. Like, I mean, the offense was just the most disappointing thing I've seen probably since like the Jarrett Garantano days. Like, it was just complete disappointment. Like, I haven't been that disappointed in Tennessee football in a minute.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't fun. Wasn't fun to watch. Even though sometimes your team loses a close one. It's like, you know what? At least we gave it our all. But I just feel like we didn't give it our all.
Yeah, I mean, I won't go as far to say that about the players, but I will say that about the coaches 100%.
Well, the defense gave it their all. They had some huge stops, some very huge stops throughout the game, but the offense was just, the coach and staff, man. Like, I don't know, I don't get the conservative play calling. I don't even know if it's conservative play calling. I think that our guys just got beat. They weren't prepared. So underprepared, you could tell.
Well, I mean, and another candid moment by a Tennessee player after a inexplicable loss. Elijah Herring last year saying they thought they had Alabama beat at halftime, and then this year, Dylan Sampson comes out and says we were lackadaisical during the bye week. Like, I just said, most of it falls on coaching. Yeah, for sure. Absolutely. But at some point, the players have to step up and decide they want to be there, you know?
Yeah, no, I don't know what we did over the past 2 weeks, but it definitely wasn't prepared for Arkansas. Especially on the defense. I can't say enough about the defense. It's been a defensive year, which is a very odd thing. It's not what we expected in the Heupel era, but here we are talking about how our defense played phenomenal football, enough to win that football game, and our offense just couldn't execute when they needed to.
Yeah,
at all.
I mean, if that's a good point, because if you told me that Tennessee would hold Arkansas to 19 points, which is what most of our predictions, the article that we put out during the week had Arkansas around 19 points, and we held them to that, but the offense just didn't show up. If you told me we held Arkansas to 19 points and Dylan Sampson ran for 140 yards, I would have told you we won by 30.
Football's weird, man. Nico didn't break the threshold of 100 yards till the fourth quarter, correct? Or the late third quarter?
I imagine it was the fourth, because 42 yards came on that play on our last drive.
I mean, if you think about it, if it wasn't for that big Dylan Sampson run, I don't think we were in that game late.
I mean, it's just let's hop into the offense. Let's really start to dissect the failure. I mean, obviously the number one concern right now on the offense in my eyes would be the offensive line. You're still relying on Pruitt's leftovers and transfers to play, and it's year 4. And 2 of them, Lance Hurd and John Campbell, both transfers, were the lowest rated players on the offense. And they just happen to be your bookend starting left tackle and right tackle. That is not a recipe for success for any team. I don't care if you have Joe Montana playing quarterback.
Yeah, can David Sanders start next week? Is that a possibility? Is can we
I
do
mean,
that?
at this rate, I mean, he's going to be a starter day one.
Yeah, that's
Easily.
what I was thinking last night. I was like, I mean, even at halftime, I was like out on Campbell, and then the second half, Lance Hurd crap down his leg. He was getting beat majority of the night. Man, it was not a good night for the offensive line at all. I mean, I guess the positives are the run game was all right with, I mean, Carrick and Mays looked all right. Spraggs was like decent at best. But yeah, they were just getting beat all night. I feel like they saw their first SEC defensive front this week and just didn't live up to the expectation.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, the offensive line, you know, 2 weeks ago at Oklahoma, you were without both of them, and then you get them back, and they look worse. Like, I just don't get it.
Well, it
I
didn't look
mean,
like Lance Hurd was in game shape. I mean, you think about like he ain't played a college football game in 3 weeks.
yeah, it's been a damn near a month,
And
and
he
yeah,
and he hasn't. I don't think he's played a full game until last night. If you think about it, because the first 3 games were just Kent State, North Carolina State, and Chattanooga. Like he didn't play the full game in all 3 of those at all.
no. I
So
mean, and then that's I hate to say this, but that's what you get for not developing a tackle prospect for 4 years. Like that's inexcusable to me. And then if you talk about it for next year, he's going to have no choice but to play some of the guys he's recruited. He won't have that crutch anymore. Like it's going to be a ordeal on the offensive line next year. It already is this year, but I mean, it might be the same deal like it was last year with the secondary. You finally get all these veterans out, and the offensive line looks better. Maybe, I don't know. Hopefully, but it's hard for me to say that, like, because if they're not ready to play now, what makes me think they're going to be ready to play next year?
no, you're so right. We learned a lot in that game, as I thought we would, but we also learned a lot of bad, and it sucks because I mean you got to wake up. You got Florida coming to town next week. It's a big game. Big game. Florida's hungry. They killed you. Did they kill you? UCF had a late comeback or something like that. They beat UCF. They're riding that wave. Their offense is good.
Mm-hmm.
Their defense sucks, but our offense sucks. So that could be a fun matchup for the rest of the world to watch. Not Vol fans, but the rest of the world.
Yeah,
Um, and then after that, you got Bama coming into town. So it's like you got to wake up. Like at this point, it's like shake it off, lock in, guys. Come on, like the season isn't over. I'd like to emphasize that. The playoff is 12 team now. Like there's still a chance you get in. Like we're sitting here this time last year with this same team, and that happens. Like the season's over. Your playoff hopes are over, basically.
mm-hmm.
But
I mean,
now Bama, I feel like Bama's a must win if you want to get into the playoffs. I feel like.
yeah, I mean, Bama or Georgia, assuming you take care of business in the other games, which is not a guarantee at all.
Well,
I
the way
mean,
we've looked on the road, I don't think we got a shot against Georgia.
yeah, I mean, there's the one of the things that's not helping the offensive line. We've touched on it a little bit already. Is the conservative play calling makes everything so predictable. Like we're either
Very, very predictable.
yeah, we're either running an inside zone or throwing it to the sideline, or Nico is trying to get a pass off over the middle, which he'll. I mean, at least last night he's getting the cylinder collapsed on him, and either getting sacked or scrambling for 2 or 3 yards. Like, and like the thing that bothers me the most about the offense right now is that Josh Heupel doesn't seem to trust Nico at all, and
Yeah,
I just don't get it.
I don't either. It's weird. Like I don't like at least if it's not working, like I don't like I'm at loss for words with that because it's like why so conservative? Like it's very clearly conservative play calling. Like he
Yeah.
could dial something up. And I mean, who's to say if he hits Squirrel on that deep ball that he missed, the game's very different. But like, I don't know. He hasn't put the ball really in harm's way for you to not trust him. He hasn't done anything in game for you to not trust him. So why not like give him a shot? Especially in a game like that where it's like, hey, like we need to win this game. Like this is must win. And it was, and I mean, we just didn't trust him. It just felt like we didn't have faith in Nico.
Which is dumbfounding to me. Like and another thing about not trusting Nico, how many, quarterback runs did we design quarterback runs did we call?
I
Because
don't
I'm pretty
remember
sure
one. I don't
yeah,
remember one.
I'm pretty sure it was 0. And I understand like you're afraid of getting him hurt or whatever because the backup situation ain't great with Gaston and a true freshman and Merklinger. But if you're worried about him getting hurt, you're never going to have good enough offense to win games. Like it's as simple as that. You have to cut him loose eventually.
I'm worried about the receiving core. They looked. I couldn't tell because like you can only see the Nico
Yeah.
just scrambling, but from my football knowledge tells me they weren't getting open for him unless he was just seeing them and wasn't throwing it, which I'm sure that happened a few times because it's football. But I I'm at a loss for words for them too. Like we come into the season, we thought they were going to be one of the best in the SEC, and they threw up a stinker last night. Granted, all our top 3 wide receivers did get hurt in this football game.
It seems to me right now that the receiving core is full of a bunch of guys that are good, but none of them are elite. There's no go-to receiver right now. Like that's all there is to it. I mean, in 2022, you relied on 3 guys for the most part because they were all clearly the best player at each respective receiver position. You had Tillman Hyatt and hell, who else was it?
McCoy, well, it'd be McCoy, but then you
Yeah,
had
Keaton was in there
Keaton.
some
Yeah,
too.
yeah, Keaton was in there, but it was
But
just those 4 really.
yeah, and now you have a litany of guys that are not separating themselves. I mean, the biggest thing I ask out of the receiver room, especially if those injuries are serious and they're going to miss time, I think Squirrel White's the one most likely to miss time because that didn't look good.
No, and I think that slant or it was like a dig they threw to Nimrod on that last drive. He got like no separation, and I feel like Squirrel would have because he's faster
Yeah,
and a better receiver. I feel like if Squirrel got a little separation right there, we're sitting at the 5 with like 15 seconds left. You're in a different position.
yeah,
I mean that last drive kind of like summarized the game. Just like we couldn't catch a break. The freaking snap that got caught by Sampson literally cost us a play. Not only a play, but like a timeout and play off the clock and time off 2 timeouts actually, because the second one was just a personnel thing, and because like we really didn't have time to get a play going, really cost you 2 timeouts. That one miscue that happened. I watched a breakdown. Nico missed he earlier in that drive. The one that he scrambled out of the pocket on, we kind of lucked out because he missed a dude that was wide open on another dig. And great adjustment by Thornton to get open. And Nico, I mean, he did a 5-star quarterback thing and made a nice play that set us up. I mean, you're going to see that from the kid, but him running out of bounds at the end of the game is unacceptable. You got to throw that ball up.
yeah. That's just ridiculous. Well, I'll touch on that in a second, but for the receivers, my thing is get Mike Matthews in the game and see what he has. If I haven't seen the all 22, like you said, I was only seeing, the view you see on TV, but
Mm-hmm.
like get him involved, see what he has. He's a 5-star. Like get him in the game, especially if there's injuries. I mean, they might have no choice. But talking about the last drive, the big thing to me is that the clock management was absolutely horrendous because that scramble by Nico, which was his best play of the game, um, you snapped that play at like 46 seconds, and then you don't run a play once you get down there for I think it was 15 to 20 seconds. I think he ran 3 plays in 45 seconds during that last drive, which is just insane when you have 2 timeouts. And one of them we didn't even end up using to stop the clock. Like you said, it was just a personnel thing because the time had already ran out. We were only going to get one playoff anyway. The clock management was horrendous.
Clock management was horrendous the whole game. At what I mean, Arkansas's game plan was what we expected.
Mm-hmm.
Don't get Tennessee's offense the ball for tempo. And they shoot. I think their first drive was like 10 minutes long. And at that point, I was like, okay, this is gonna be a dogfight. We just got to survive, and we didn't. We didn't survive. We played conservative all the way up till the end. And then the punt, dude, there were some calls. It was like 4th and short a few times. I was like, why aren't we going for it? Or I don't know, man. I'm just like, I have so many questions that, I guess aren't going to get answered till a few weeks, the end of the season, off season when they interview Hype. I don't know. I don't get it. It just does a lot of this stuff on offense doesn't make sense.
I mean, he's literally Josh Heupel just talking about his overall coaching last night and even 2 weeks ago. It's a complete 180 philosophy change, and it really goes back to last year too. I know a lot of the blame went to Milton and maybe Golish leaving last year, but he's been ultra conservative for really since the middle of last season up until now, and it's like, what are we doing? Like, and just talking about clock management again, in the fourth quarter, we're, you know, caught between wanting to run the time off and going fast. Like, you need to commit to one or the other because we had a 3rd and 7 just past midfield. There's 25 seconds on the clock, and you just hand the ball off. Like, if you're going to do that, run the 20 seconds off. Like, it's just a bunch of ignorant stuff that happened that just is typical of Heupel on the road so far, which we thought got fixed 2 weeks ago in Norman.
Yeah, I don't know. It was a huge trap game for us, and we failed to just execute what we needed to. At least we didn't lose to Vanderbilt.
Yeah, I mean,
somehow it could be worse.
Yeah, I mean, and that's the positive we'll touch on for a second. There is only one SEC team right now that is still undefeated, and that's Texas. Everybody else has a loss, and no one has played more than 3 conference games. Like, it is like, I don't know if it's better parity across college football. I don't know if it's just a weird year, like you mentioned before we started in 2007. But we're not the only ones. That's some good news. But what makes me mad is we had a chance to separate ourselves from the pack and show that we're not going to lose to a team we should beat, and we sure as hell lost to them.
No, we're definitely the better football team. Absolutely, across the board. There's no reason that should have happened, but the SEC is deep this year, and it was proven yesterday it's kind of crazy. Like, you don't know how it's going to shape up. Like, there's not a team in the SEC that's horrible this year, including Vanderbilt, who took down number 1 Alabama, which I don't think anyone saw coming in a million years. Texas A&M blew out a top-ranked Missouri. It's weird. You can't really get a read on those. Like, usually there's a clear and decisive, like, bottom 3 in the SEC every year. This year, it's like, I don't know. It maybe Florida might be the worst team in the SEC, but even if they are, they're a decent football team.
Yeah, I'd say it's, for me right now, it's probably Mississippi State.
Oh, yeah, clearly. I forgot about them, but yes.
So, yeah, because Florida went there and put up 45. I mean, but like you said, their defense ain't good. But getting back to Tennessee, the last thing I'll say about the offense is, I don't know, like I said earlier, if it was Golish leaving or, him not trusting his quarterbacks the last 2 years. But at some point you have got to cut Nico loose and see what he can do. And I wish we would have been doing this last year while Milton was struggling and we went 8-4. I wish he would have taken some of these lumps last year. Maybe he wouldn't ran out of damn bounds at the end of the game. But you have to see what he has, and you're really about to not have a choice unless you want to get blown out in the next 2 games. Because Florida is looking good on offense now, like you said, and we always have a mental block with them. And then the week after, you're facing Alabama. I mean, if you don't get your shit together, you could be staring down 3 straight losses.
And the good thing is the Neyland faithful will be behind the team. Will be behind the team against Florida. That's a good like if you go in and you beat Florida handily, which I don't know at this point. I don't know if we're going to score more than 30 points against an SEC opponent, even if it is Florida. But you go in and you beat Florida, then that's a momentum builder. And then you run into Bama, who has, they beat Georgia last week and then lost to Vanderbilt this week. They're beatable. If Bama's beating Georgia, you could beat them. It's just the SEC is so weird. It's so wide open. It's like we're at the point of the schedule where it's like put up or shut up.
Yeah. I mean, this is going to really tell you a lot about the culture in the program over the next 5 weeks while you're at home until you head to Georgia. You've got to go, realistically to make the playoffs. To me, you have to go undefeated, because we've seen we can't play on the road. We're facing a much better opponent in Georgia on the road at the.
I think you can afford it. I mean, we are ranked 8th in the poll right now. I think you can afford a close loss to Georgia on the road.
Yeah, exactly. And you just have to win. I mean, and if this team is what everybody hopes they were before the season, and even before last night, you bounce back next week against Florida. I will be very, very, very concerned and 1 foot out the door on Josh Heupel if Florida goes in there and beats Tennessee next week.
Yeah, no, I think I agree. It's like, what are you doing at this point? I don't. Was it goalish? It raises so many questions. Like, what is the play? Like the play, I keep coming back to the play calling because the play calling was literally this: halfback dive, screen pass, then you'd have a dig, a go, or like a post, and they just weren't getting. It was a very simple and predictable all night, and it was like me sitting at my couch, like screaming at the TV, predicted what Tennessee was about to do. Like, it was a very I don't get, like, I have so many questions. I can't like describe how I feel about this game. I'm just like I'm angry. There's a lot of mixed emotions about this football team right now because there's a reason, like, this team has potential. It has athletes. There's a reason people were saying Nico's going to win Heisman. There's a reason that Colin Cowherd predicted us to win the national championship. It's because we have athletes, but it's like if you don't use them correctly, then like what's the point? And the defense is phenomenal. It's one of the best units in college football.
Yeah. I mean, is Josh Heupel leaning too much into him finally have a good defense? It certainly seems like it. Like the whole reason people were saying all those things, the Colin Cowherds, the multiple talking heads who have hyped up Tennessee this year, is they're assuming the offense was going to do what they do as well. And we gave Heupel a pass against Oklahoma because of the tackles being out and him going conservative then. But we had a damn lead. It wasn't a 1-point game. Like, you have to score and push the lead a little bit in a 1-point game, or Arkansas will score on their final opportunity of the game, like they did. Like, you have to drop your nuts if you're Josh Heupel. Like, I'm so sick of him just doing the complete opposite of what he did in his first 2 years, the last year in 5 games now. Like, it's like somebody has. I said this last year after the Alabama game. It's like somebody has him tied up in a closet and like a red ball in his mouth. he's like held captive somewhere and some doppelganger is coaching Tennessee. Like I just don't get it. And if he doesn't fix it, like I said, it's going to get ugly because you're staring down the barrel of 4-3 if you don't figure out your issues.
It's
So
weird. It's weird. I don't know what. It's a weird. Just speechless, and I don't know. Like, there's so many mixed emotions about what happened last night because it was like we had those thoughts during the Oklahoma game, but they were brought to the forefront of the Arkansas game because we lost, and because that game was just the Oklahoma game ramped up to 30.
mhm. Yeah, and it's disappointing that obviously, and like I said, Sampson admitted that they were not taking things seriously during the bye week. And that to me, I said, the players have to step up at some point, but it starts with coaching. Like it's 80% coaching when your players aren't ready to play. Like it's just so annoying. Do you have any more thoughts on the offense before we talk about some good things that happened?
Um, got Dylan Sampson's the only person to step up on this team on the offense at least. Uh, the tight ends disappointed. Kitzelman was the only one I saw on the field at all.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought I was expecting a big year from Stace and Davis, but they didn't show up last night, I guess, unless I'm just not seeing something. I haven't really watched the film yet. I've been trying to stay away from the game as much as possible since
Yeah.
doing everything else. But now the offense is horrendous, and they better improve quickly. And you got a big game coming up, so get to it.
Yeah. I actually lied. There's a few more bad things I want to talk about. Um, we still commit a ridiculous amount of penalties, especially on the road. We do it at home too, but last night the penalties were so, you know, like detrimental to everything that we were trying to do. Like it seemed that half of our drive started with a false start or some other nonsense like that. The first play of the game, we had a illegal man downfield that took off a 15-yard gain, and then the cherry on top was I hate to blame players, but I just don't know what Jordan Ross was thinking when the punt is gone and he just comes by and smacks the punter in the head and extends the drive that Arkansas ended up scoring 3 points on, which in a game like last night was detrimental because if you're down by, 2 instead of 5, you can hit a field goal to win or, I don't, the math is not, I'm not worried about the math, but the bottom line is that the field goal
The
was
game's
important.
very different in the simplest way possible. The game's very different if you
Yeah.
don't run into the punter. Like, we get the ball, I'd say around the 40, 30, something like that. Better field position than what we had on a kickoff.
Mhm.
More of a lead. That you just can't make that freshman mistake in an environment like that. Like, it got their offense rolling.
Yeah, and then that was only one bad play we had on a punt by Arkansas. Um, on the our drive right before Arkansas went ahead, Arkansas punted the ball. It lands at the 35-ish and then rolls 15 yards back. Squirrel White has to catch that ball because they end up getting the ball around the 40, and then after 2 plays, they're in field goal range, and we had to let them score to even have a chance. As a junior, you have got to catch that ball, and I really think it comes down to when you coach tight, your players play tight, and they're afraid to make mistakes. So,
It's a great point. It's a great point. Yeah, the
but
energy comes from the coach, and if he's on the sideline being timid, then the team's going to be timid. And they looked from the first snap of the game. We had that one. We had that flag, like you said. The team looked timid, and it scared me, and I knew it was going to be tough all night because of it.
mhm. I mean, when it comes down to it, like I said, I'd say 90% to 95% of last night falls on Josh Heupel, and the other 5% falls on the players. Like it's it is almost always the coaching's fault when you're talking about children. And I know people will say now that They're not, you know, amateurs if they're getting paid, but they're still of the age where they're susceptible to outside factor, and the coach has to control that. And as far as I'm concerned, Josh Heupel failed miserably last night, and it's just it's just so annoying that it's a trend of him doing this on the road. It's annoying that he's being conservative. There's so many annoying things, but I want to talk about some good things now that we've already touched on. Um, the defense is a championship level defense. And if the offense can even muster what they did last year, you're going to win a lot of the games you have left. Like if you scored 30 points a game, you're going to win a lot of your games with the way this defense has played so far, assuming they keep it up.
Man, it sucks because I'm a defensive guy, and when your offense can't score, it sucks, man. It's not fair to those guys on that side of the football. Pierce showed up last night for the first time, looked like the player he is.
Mm-hmm.
One of the best. Like there was a play, Taylor Green rolled out right, and he just ran him down. And like I was like, dude, I looked at my friend who was sitting beside me. I was like, there's no other player in the country that tackles him there. Taylor Green gets the edge and maybe gets a first down, but James Pierce got like a loss of 3, and it's like he showed up last night and he played football for his team. The linebackers are good. They had a couple boneheaded mistakes, but those happened throughout the game. But overall, like they had a decent night playing linebacker, stopping the run, dropping into pass coverage. We got containing Taylor Green was a problem early, but they fixed it. They came out and stayed heavy, got wide, brought the safeties down. Like we adjusted. Like the offense should have. The defense played championship level football, like you said last night.
They kept you in the game, like during the whole first half when we literally scored 0 points. They kept you in the game. They got 2 fourth down stops, two fourth and short stops. And it's unfair to criticize the defense at all to me when the offense was on the field for 24 minutes. The first drive of the game, it was scripted. It's unfortunate the defense let them be on the field for 9 minutes, but then the offense goes 3 and out. Like they were behind the 8 ball from the beginning when the offense is not sustaining drives, and they still played well enough to win that game defensively.
2 huge fourth down stops early, the missed field goal. Man, the defense was playing great football last night, and the offense just let them down.
Yeah. I mean, and like we've touched on, I mean, really the only unit that played good was the defense. The special teams was terrible. Jackson Ross played okay. He pinned them deep a few times. And then the only bad defensive play I can really blame the defense on is the 3rd and 15 where Arkansas was backed up in their own end zone and Aaron Carter just disregards the running back.
The flat in general, he did. I don't get it. Yeah, that was a huge play. Like, because right before that, we thought we had a safety. Like that safety, as we saw in the Oklahoma game, is a huge thing. And if they're punting from their end zone, from the 1 yard line, like that's when you send Jordan Ross.
Mm-hmm.
But we gave up a 50. We gave up like a. I don't get how you just let the running back slip out for a little short check down from their own red zone. Like that just doesn't make sense to me. Carter just that's like I said, like the linebackers played great last night, but they had a couple boneheaded plays, both of them.
Yeah. I mean, the corners you could say had their worst game, but a lot of the throws that Taylor Green was making were dropped right in the bucket over good coverage. So I'm really not going to blame the corners too much. I mean, that happens. The guys on the other side are on scholarship too.
Tackling was a little iffy at times. Like there were a couple times where we just weren't wrapping up. They were just breaking tackles. Like they'd throw a little short out route or something like that, and we just like dive at ankles. Not winning those one-on-one in the tackling game is like that. Sometimes that's the difference in football games. But last night it wasn't. The difference in the football game was the offense not playing football. at all last night.
Yeah.
Except Dylan Sampson. He's the only one.
I mean, that's really the only thing that you can point to on the offense, and game in and game out, it's going to be there is Dylan Sampson through 5 games. That is the only thing. Like, he's our only identity on offense, and I always hesitate to believe the secret Florida playbook theory, but even if that is a thing, eventually you have to bring out every stop you can on offense, and Hype will just refuse to. Like, it's just annoying because I know for a fact everybody was here and watched the 2022 offense. They did not go screen, dive, sack on most of their drives throughout an entire half. Not one time in 2022. Like, I think they showed it during the game. The last time we were shut out in a half was 5 years ago. Jeremy Pruitt football. Like, I would never have expected that to happen under Josh Heupel, and yet it did. And I think it falls squarely on his shoulders. And I'm about sick of talking to this game, unless you have anything else.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. I kind of want to get on with my week. I'm going to the Florida game next week. Hopefully, upside here, like, you beat Florida. We never do that. That'll make me feel a little bit better. This team has potential, and I don't know where it is, but if they find it quickly, then we might be in for, a better season than we're expecting at this point. But it hurts right now. You're getting our immediate raw right after the game, literally less than 24-hour reaction to this game. This is the first time I've in depth talked about it since, because I didn't want to talk about it.
Mm-hmm.
But that's all I got.
I mean, like you said, you have a big opportunity at home next week in front of Checker Neyland, in front of the rival that's given you the most trouble over the last now 30 years. You have a chance
Team you should beat by 40.
Yes.
Keep that in mind.
Yes. If the offense gets their shit together, this is a game that you should dominate, because their defense ain't good, and I think our defense can slow them down. I mean, it's as simple as that. And this is going to be a culture thing. I said before this Arkansas game, this is a culture check, and we failed we failed that one. So you have another chance. I mean, it's not going to right all of the wrongs that happened last night, but it will go a long way and make me believe this team is rebounded. I mean, the hope is that this wakes up the team, and it wakes up Josh Heupel to stop doing his silly conservative bullshit he's been doing in the last 2 games. So
I just this team dropped 52 on Alabama 2 years ago, and that I just can't fathom that right now. I just how is this the same? I don't get it. It's just whatever. We're gonna move on, and I'm not gonna talk about the arc. It's worse. I'm not gonna talk about this game. Hopefully, ever again.
Yeah, I'm ready to snap and clear, and like I said, I just hope this is the blow that knocks Tennessee on track for the rest of the season. So, I mean, that's what you got to hope. I mean, you can choose to be you can choose to be miserable and say the season's lost, which might be true. I'm not going to blame anybody for being disappointed today. You have every right to be pissed off as a Tennessee fan, but I still believe that this team can have success this year. So, that's about the last thing I'll say.
Hey, here's the basketball season.
I'm almost there. Like I said,
Yeah.
if we go out and lose to Billy Napier at home, I will be right there with you, Eli.
Yeah, I think that's where I'm going to be if we lose to Billy Napier at home. That can't happen. That cannot happen.
Yeah, when a bad Florida team comes in Neyland Stadium, you need to beat them, because it's not often that happens. So, but at any rate, I will always say, go Vols.
Go Vols, always.